So, Dambara, turning it over to you.
Hey, great. Thanks. Welcome, everybody. Hi. Um, I'll echo what Supriya said, is that I love to see your faces, and I don't care how you're dressed. Hopefully you are dressed, but I don't care how. It's just a lot more fun getting to see who everybody is. Hi, Linda. Bev, I see your cabin, but it'd be really nice to see you. Haven't seen you in a long time, so nice to see your name there.
Can you
Um,
do the
Hi,
checkerboard?
Alex. Hi, Bev. There you are. Good. Okay, so you get the idea. It's really fun for me anyway to at least see your faces. Doesn't matter what else you have going on there. Maitri had a request for a song, so we're going to lead off with that. First, I do want to say though, I really appreciate just the care and communication and really smooth operation that Maitri and Mark and Supriya have for handling speakers like myself. It just makes it really a joy to participate. You guys do it great. Dallas is really classy, so thanks a lot for all you do there. I appreciate it a lot. It's fun seeing David Eby last week and Zach and Haley next Sunday. You just have a really good lineup going on in Asha, the workshop and everything. So, Haribol. Okay, so where he dwells. Where he dwells, the earth in gladness puts forth green herbs, shading trees. Where he dwells, the earth in gladness puts forth green herbs, shading trees. Gay streams bound through summer meadows, fragrance blows on every breeze. Gay streams bound through summer meadows, fragrance blows on every breeze. They with happiness are blessed, who the Lord have made their guest, who the Lord have made their guest. Where he dwells, the earth in gladness puts forth green herbs, shading trees. Okay, don't you love Swami's music? Jai. Speaking of Swami, I mentioned this to Supriya. Um, Treasures Along the Path. I hope you all subscribe to that. I'm not affiliated financially with Treasures Along the Path, but it's just fabulous inspiration to get their stuff every month, and for a really reasonable price, like $10. And then you just get these digitally remastered talks by Swami that you've never heard before. And one of them is, the most recent one, is from 1978 in Boston at an interfaith event. And Swami mentions a dream he had about Dallas. And I thought that would be fun to share. So just 2 minutes long. So here's Swami 1978 in Boston.
And so it is that when we see things at their worst and accept them that way, then everything from then on is an up. It doesn't matter anymore. I had this experience years ago in a dream when I was, I guess I was living in San Francisco at the time, and I dreamed that there was a yoga group in Dallas, Texas, they wrote to me and they said that we've gotten a great deal of interest in the subject of yoga, and we feel that if we would just have one well-known yoga teacher come and talk to our groups and be on TV and radio and get yoga heard about and so on in this town of Dallas, that we would be able to put our subject sort of over finally, and we'd get over the hump. And would you please come and give lectures here for a week or two? So I went there, and I lectured and was on TV and gave lots of public talks and so on. Well, every talk was an absolute disaster. Each one was worse than the one before, so that by the time I'd been there a week or two, the name of yoga was another four-letter word. It just was completely, it lost all reputation in the town of Dallas. So finally, the leader of this now defunct yoga center was driving me back to the airport, and he looked at me blackly in the car, and he said, "Now, how do you feel?" And I said, "I feel fine. I did my best. What more can I do?" And I woke up right then, and I felt really good that I'd been able to feel that way, because that's how we should be. That whether things go well or badly, whether people like us or hate us, whether life is up or down, or whether it's sunshine or rain, we should live completely centered in ourselves. If we have joy in ourselves, there isn't anybody who can take that away from us. If we understand that that joy comes from inside and not from outside. Now, this is what the science of yoga is all about.
Okay, that's it. Fun, huh? So I guess that's kind of on our topic, which is just we are children of the light. Just do our best. Don't take ourselves too seriously. And that's all that's asked. And I have enjoyed just reading the topic and reflecting on that. Just how we do tend to take well, I'll speak for myself, how I tend to take myself a little too seriously sometimes. And what Jesus is saying, no man hath descended from heaven, but he that came from heaven, or something to that effect. Basically, anything that we identify with that isn't heavenly, which is to say God's bliss, nirvikalpa samadhi, just in total bliss all the time. I don't identify with that all the time. I tend to forget. But as Patanjali says, enlightenment is just a matter of remembering, Smriti. Great name, Smriti. So the more opportunity we have just to remind ourselves that we are, well, I like the idea of just being lighthearted. And we just need to lighten up a little bit. And when we tend to take ourselves a little too seriously, that's when we're getting a little too heavy. So along those lines, I have a funny story to share. So this is way back when, kind of in the early days when I first came to Ananda, and there was a big fundraising event in San Francisco that people from the village came down to and joined people from Palo Alto, where I was living at the time. So I was sitting at this table, and across from me were Dave and Maria Warner, who Maria was alive at that time, of course, and dessert came around, and it was this really probably tasty chocolate mousse. I say probably because I really wasn't into eating chocolate at the time, and was kind of, I just don't need that. So Maria, noticing this, said, "Why aren't you eating your chocolate mousse?" And I said, "Well, I'm just kind of not really into chocolate. I don't want to appear holier than thou." And without missing a beat, she said, "You're not holier than me." Which was great, Maria. You just put your finger right on it. So I've always enjoyed that. But I want to ask you all, and this will mean raising your hand and unmuting yourself. In the promise of immortality, Swami says something, and I thought, I wonder what he exactly means by that. So I want to ask you what you think he means by that. He says, Jesus' statement in the above passage that we read earlier means that only that part of man can go back to heaven or to God which came down from there. Man's physical body could not survive in those non-material realms. His jealousy and pride would make it intolerable for him to be surrounded by radiant love. His ego could never withstand what Paramahansa Yogananda called the liberating shock of omnipresence. That's a lot to digest, but what stopped me was, okay, I'm fine with only that part of man that came down from heaven, or God can go back there. So, just like our consciousness, essentially. Our consciousness is what we take with us when we leave this physical plane. But then he says, man's physical body could not survive in those non-material realms. Fine. His jealousy and pride would make it intolerable for him to be surrounded by radiant love. His ego could never withstand what Paramahansa Yogananda called the liberating shock of omnipresence. So I'm wondering, I'm just speculating. Well, let me throw it open. What are your thoughts, if you have any, and it's okay if you don't, but if you do, raise your hand, we'll unmute you, or you'll unmute you, and just share what you think is meant by that.
I guess I'll jump in there since nobody else did. Well, what it reminded me of, let's put it that way, is my own experience of being around a very enlightened, radiant being like Swami, and how it is difficult when you have a lot of garbage to be in that light sometimes. And I think that's what Master talked about a lot while people couldn't deal with being at the ashram and people would come and go. It's because it works on a whole different level, but it is all your stuff comes up and you either are able to offer and surrender, and it, by the grace of God, it gets transcended, or you have to move back a little bit out of that direct line of fire, so to speak, because it's a purifying light. It illuminates all the dark corners of your being, and sometimes the ego can handle that, and often it cannot. So that would be my comment.
Very good, thank you. Anyone else?
If you don't mind, can you repeat that? Because that was a lot to take in.
You mean repeat the reading?
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure. It was a lot. Okay, so Swami says, man's physical body could not survive in those non-material realms, meaning heaven or the astral world. His jealousy and pride would make it intolerable for him to be surrounded by radiant love. His ego could never withstand what Paramahansa Yogananda called the liberating shock of omnipresence.
Yeah. Wow, that is pretty enlightening, isn't it? Just that itself. What it's telling me is that we are identified by the body and mind. And as long as we stay identified with the body and mind, like, this is me, I am Jyoti, I am, I have this, and I am part of this family, and I know these kind of people. So that is what we associate ourselves with. And as long as we do that, we cannot tolerate that light of oneness with God.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm
Good, thank
understanding.
you. So the question is, of course, what's the way out? If that's a limiting factor.
Yes, that is so true. The only way out is when we stop identifying ourselves as the body and mind and giving up the ego. The ego is so attached to the family, to the people we know, to the house, to the car we drive, to our surroundings, and to where we came from. And we are swamped with those thoughts of how people feel about us and how we are so miserable in this life, or how we are so elated because of our position in the world. And all of that, there is duality. Sometimes we are low we feel inferior, but sometimes we feel superior. This is a world of duality.
Right.
As Lord Krishna describes it in the Bhagavad Gita, telling Arjun, there is this is a world of opposites, and if you can just stay in tune with me, then here I am.
Great. Thank you, Jyoti. Yeah. And Eric, good to see you. Hi.
Dambara, hi, it's Mike Wolverton. I've got an answer for you.
Yeah.
To me, it means that when we're in the astral world, we don't get worse. And the message is that when we're involved in the body, maybe our goal should be not to get worse and just to go in the right direction toward God.
That seems achievable. Yeah. Because sometimes the high bar just seems so high that we might get a little discouraged or something. So I guess that's what I love, is things that seem accessible to me. And one of those is just remembering to look on the lighter side of things, anything that makes the heart feel uplifted or happy. And like Maitri said in a text, just now in a chat rather, that Kriya Yoga is the way. So just meditating, focusing at the spiritual eye, just when we in meditation kind of let go of the body identification and identify more with the light and the lightness and the levity, the devotee levity, that really helps us get there more. And thank you, Alex, for your comment about the weight of the soul. That's really a fun thing there in the chat too. One thing that struck me also in this reading was Swami mentioned words to the effect that the only thing we take with us to the astral world when we leave this physical plane is our consciousness. And it's intensified in the astral world. And that kind of made me realize, whoa, okay, so what consciousness do I want to practice having now so that that's what I can take with me? The consciousness of irritation or judgment or obsessiveness with other people, their realities, politics, whatever, fill in the blank, Do I like that feeling? Do I like that consciousness? Is that what I want to have intensified when I go to the astral world? I don't think so. I'd much rather have my identity with light, with joy, with just expansiveness, with acceptance, with realizing that other people are basically expressions of God just as valid as I am, kind of thing. And the more I can try to expand that reality, and it's a push. It really takes a lot sometimes, but just every little effort we make, just pushing it upward in that direction, that inclusion, helps. I believe that will help me at least remember that. Sometimes you have to tell yourself a scary story to really get the point, so that was a scary story to me.
The thing that really jumped out at me in the reading was what he said about our jealousies and I'm not sure what else in there, but would make it impossible for us to be in the presence of that divine love, which really is kind of an aha moment for me. It's like, the more attached we are with the ego, the less able we are to accept divine love. So yeah. I think, like you said, lightening up about things, not taking ourselves so seriously is one good way to get there. And Nishkan Karma, and action without the desire for the fruits of the action.
Yeah. And in relating to others or any conflicts, just kind of remembering to tell yourself, okay, do I want to be receptive to divine love, or do I want to be receptive to jealousy and all those other things, ego? It's like, okay, choice.
What is it? You're familiar with the Education for Life curriculum and stuff? I'm trying to remember. Yeah, the specific gravity thing. That's what was coming to my mind, is just, how we can, just keep moving toward, like you said, lightening up. I love what he says in Education for Life. It's such a practical, down-to-earth way of putting it, you know, and is very you know, loving too. You know, it doesn't. You don't feel, it's not as easy, you don't feel the finger shaking so much as it's like, it's all directional, and, you know, we're, you know, a mixture of that. And what's the next step toward
Yeah.
taking this toward the light?
And part of not taking ourselves too seriously is just being really honest and accepting of where we are. Like, you know, if we're a second grader, then it's really silly for us to be all uptight about the fact that we don't know as much as that sixth grader knows. And so I think part of that too is, well, okay, I'm going to read another thing Swami says. This isn't a conundrum like the other one was, but it's just a good reminder. And it is about humility. Every scripture gives a further and enormously important caution. Be humble. Know that as you have the potential to develop spiritual wisdom, so there are countless others who, even at present, are more spiritually advanced than yourself. Masters even, who can say, as Jesus did to Nicodemus, we speak that which we do know. We testify to that which we have seen. Don't think of yourself as the lead runner in a pack of spiritual laggards. Think of yourself as the last one among countless devotees before you who have earnestly sought and have finally attained the one goal in life that is worth seeking. Like can only comprehend like. Identify yourself with those who are trying deeply to attain God, not with those who are still deeply asleep and haven't yet realized how spiritually unaware they are. To pride oneself on being more spiritual than they is to identify oneself with them. Identify yourself rather with those whom you would join. So that's kind of like looking at it both ways. You know, you don't want to compare yourself to those who are ahead of you in a way that makes you feel discouraged. But you do want to be looking forward towards the goal in a way that those who are expressing that, you know, whether it's Master or Swami or Asha or, you know, the other people that have been around a long time or whatever, you want to look to them as good examples that you can become. It really helps me to look at people that I can relate to, that I can sort of see myself getting a little bit like that. When I compare myself with Swami, sometimes that's a bit of a leap and I might get a little discouraged. But the thing I love about Swami is that he always looked at our highest potential. And that doesn't mean not accepting where we are. It means like being so clear and open-hearted that you see exactly where somebody is at, you accept it completely like a loving parent would, and you just think, all right, what's the next step for this child? What's their next growth step? What's their next lesson in second grade? There's no judgment for not knowing what a sixth grader knows already, you know, and just to be that to other people, to be able to see other people as children of God, exactly perfect where they are right now, and just how can I help take the next step forward? And that's an aspiration that I have to be more like, you know, every time I remember. Well, that seems like a good kind of point to transition out of me yakking and asking your feedback and getting into a Q&A. Do you think that sounds right, Supriya and Maitri and Mark? Hugh?
Sure.
Hi, Dambara.
Go ahead, Hugh.
Well, I just have a question. I would like Dambara to keep yakking away on a specific topic. I would like to hear about Seattle, and especially I know you had an Education for Life school. Is it going to be coming back online? I know Rima is over there. We miss him. He came over a couple of years and I gave Kriya initiations. Are there plans for him to come back? Just tell us, fill our hearts with information from Seattle, Washington.
I'll tell you what I know. I'm a 2-year transplant of Ananda Farm, Camino Island, actually, is where my wife and I live. But we're plugged into Seattle Center, of course. And Riemann is awesome when it comes to Kriya. He's just one of the best. It's a delight to around everything he does that's Kriya related. So where we're at right now, as best of an overview as I can give, is Riemann and Padma are really supportive of Ananda Farm, Camino Island, for one thing. And I mean, they some years ago bought a little cottage on Camino Island for the purpose of seclusion, and then having it be an Airbnb at the time, and that devotees could also rent and have seclusion there. That's transitioned now to where it's full-time their own residence, along with an apartment that they have at the Ananda community in Linwood. So they spend half the week in the Ananda community in Linwood, Washington, and half the week in their cottage on Camino Island, which is known as Camino Hermitage. And it's about a half, but 5 minutes drive away from the farm. So they're very supportive of everything that's happening at the farm. It doesn't feel like a divisiveness, like, pulling energy away. It feels like just two really fun things happening. And it's great when your spiritual directors support that. And so, I can speak from personal experience more about the farm just because I'm around that. And just in a nutshell, there are more and more people kind of buying properties near the farm. My wife and I bought one here 2 years ago that it's kind of, I'll just say the farm is like 10 acres. And then there was a 5-acre piece here that was purchased about 5 years ago that's known as Haven House, and that's where the alpacas live, for those who visited here. And then my wife and I purchased kind of the missing 5-acre square here to make it one big 20-acre farm. The 15 acres is owned by private investors. The 5 acres we have, we own it. Actually, the bank owns it, but we're paying mortgage on it. But we consider it part of the farm. So that's happened, and then other people are buying properties nearby. So it's kind of more and more turning into like a village sort of situation. And it's all, Zach and Haley's magnetism is fabulous, as you've seen them already, and you'll get to see them next Sunday, which is really fun. Meanwhile, in Seattle, they're doing great. Riemann and Padma, God bless them, they just finished a fundraising effort to pay off the mortgages on the temple and the yoga fellowship hall and a few other miscellaneous loans to the tune of $1.11 million or something like that. And they thought it might take a couple of years. It took just over 3 months. So, jai. And that's great, because that's a big relief to not have, mortgages and to be able to own what you're doing. COVID, of course, has been a challenge to everybody. I mean, you guys know that, and I'm intrigued to know what Dallas is up to in terms of future possibilities, and like you were referring to, but put that aside for a sec. So the temple's done well. It's going all within the COVID protocol of just, having people. We are able to have people attend in limited numbers, in person, spaced, masked, windows open, all that sort of stuff. So that's been very by the book, and it's worked fine. The community's doing great. I'll tell you that at Seattle, just in a nutshell, hope this isn't too much info, but since you asked, people who are moving away from Seattle city and want to be more in the country, they move north. And so there's more and more energy moving northward. Now they've just built this huge and expensive light rail line that extends to Linwood, where the community is. So suddenly the property values have gone up hugely, and property tax has gone up hugely. And there was a question in the old aged, building community that Ananda has there as to what's the handwriting in the wall. Does that mean we're going to need to move to find another location? Do we want to move further up northward towards Camino Island or what, or stay here? And they were very open and transparent, had a really good community discussion around that as to what we want to do. And they elected to stay there and keep it going, put money into the maintenance as needed, trim the belt as able. So Christy Johnston is managing the community right now, doing a great job. And people are very happy there. So that's going forward for the time being. So we really do have two vital centers of energy happening, both at the community and at Ananda Farm. Does that answer it for you, Hugh?
Yes, sir.
Great.
I appreciate it.
How many units and people live in Linwood now?
That's where I'm not personally as familiar. I would guess that it's around, and I'm just guessing, maybe 40, 48. That's kind of a standard size that it seems to be.
Is it
and
all
maybe off.
devotees?
They are, yeah, mostly devotees. Yeah, they're devotees, families. Okay, again, I'm just guessing because I haven't lived there personally. Where our house here, we share it with another couple, the guy of which was the maintenance guy there at the community for a lot of years. So he knows that very specifically, and unfortunately, he's not here for me to ask right now. But my impression is that it's just very uptone. People are very cooperative. They do things together. It does have a really strong devotee vibe. So I don't know if it's all devotees, but it seems to be very positive, very cooperative, and openings are fairly limited when they happen. I would guess there's a bit of a waiting list.
So I'd like to toss out there that we are totally off of Facebook now. And Mark does assure us that even when we are on Facebook, that if we open our cameras, we are not on Facebook. Okay, Dambara is still on the Facebook. I just want to, so we start to really learn that. But now we're totally off of Facebook. So would love to see cameras for anyone who would like to open them. And also, whatever you want to ask, it doesn't have to be about Seattle and Camino Island, which it's great to know about that. And hopefully one day we'll get to visit some of that. But anything on this spiritual path, about the music. Dambara is so much into the music and offers that for us. So any worldwide kind of questions about this path of self-realization that we can massage together with Dambara. Hi,
Actually,
Ellen.
I've got a question.
Here's
I hope you're
Ellen
not.
in Austin.
Hey, Ellen in Austin.
Okay, Eric, you go first, and then Eric, and then Ellen.
It's okay. I put mine in the chat box.
No, we'd much rather have you this way.
You go ahead, Ellen.
It's good to see you, Eric.
Hey, likewise.
Yeah. Eric and I go all the way back to 93 when I first came to Dallas. Anyway,
That's right.
so nice to meet you. Thank you so much for coming on to be with us. And you have such good energy and just so lighthearted and fun. So I put my question in the chat box, Dambara, for you. But basically, I think all of the information about Seattle and the farm is fascinating. And I'm curious if I saw that the farm will be open for visitors starting in April for a certain period of time. But can we visit? And if we can visit, where might we stay? Since I live in Austin.
That's a really good question. The farm is very dynamically attracting people. And so right now, I think the farmhouse itself, they call the original house the farmhouse. They call the second house Haven House. And we call our house Haven West. So the farmhouse plus a few cottages that surround it are currently hosting 11 people. I think that includes baby Leo, which is the newest farm member of PN and William, and is about how old now? Maybe a month? Really cute, just cute as a button. So there's a lot of people flowing around there. Haven House has a family, which is Jaidara and little Gabrielle and Vahini, and also Glenda Anderson, who's Haley's mom, and Nayaswami Lajana. So those folks all live in that house. And they do not have a guest room there. The farm does not have a guest room. Our house, however, does have a guest room. So, like I said, we have two couples. It's a 4-bedroom house. So we have room for another couple, and then we have a guest room. And that's where people can stay who want to visit. So if you do, just contact me. There's also houses nearby, and those probably would be open to people visiting there too. So it's just kind of spontaneous. The farm is very in the flow. So whenever you want to come, just call and we'll figure it out.
Thank you so much. It's a bucket list.
Eric, what's yours?
It's interesting. I think about when Yogananda came around, I mean, he saw into the future. He felt how he could kind of, in line with the reading, acclimatize America to a new possibility. And that possibility was that people could become self-realized and that a society could, over time, slowly change based on its kind of proximity to teachings and those people who were teaching. Do you, I'm not sure exactly what the question is. I'm feeling for, it's like, I'm always thinking of what is the next step in communication that would take it to a new, that may not be the question. How do you feel self-realization going out to these 240 countries? How do you sense an expansion of consciousness in the world that we could actually point to in some way, observe?
Yes.
Good answer.
That's right.
I love it. It was a very broad question.
Well, I'm with you. And I look at that myself. There was a recent video by Ananda Mumbai that maybe you saw as part of the Ananda Worldwide newsletter, and it had them singing "Listen, Listen, Listen" to My Heart Song in a very, really well-produced video. And it was very Mumbai, and just very tasty guitar licks and really nice production, and it showed everybody just having lots of fun doing it, and it showed the process of making the video as well as singing in the video, and it showed them meditating afterwards. Now, as a music person, there were a couple of things that weren't maybe by the book, like harmonies that were sort of thrown in, chords that aren't like typical chords that you might hear. Yeah. So that's a question. All right, what do we do? It's not what we're mostly familiar with. It's a little different, but how's the energy? In my opinion, the energy was just beautiful, and it was an expression of Mumbai. Wow. And I think that's going to happen and is happening around the world. I mean, look at Zach and Haley just feeling the inspiration that they initially felt, which they'll talk about next week, I'm sure. Also, Zach recorded a talk for Inner Renewal Week, so that'll be part of that. And you'll probably get a chance to watch that before you talk to him next Sunday, so that would be really cool. Wow. But he felt an inspiration, and then also felt that it was time to take that inspiration of what he felt in the mountains along with Haley and bring it into the world and share it and make it happen for people. I think of it like the masters. Here they are in bliss, and then they think, well, wait a minute, there's all these people that don't know this. I really want to share it with them. So that's what will happen. That's our job. And I said yes with unhesitatingly only because I know that it's rising Dwapara. And that's the way things are going. Things are getting more and more connected. We're beginning to eliminate distance right now, space. We're not yet in the yuga where we eliminate time quite yet, but we are eliminating space by, look at us, we're zooming all across the country right now. And so I think that will continue, where people will find their own expression. And that's always the question, is how do you stay true to the inspiration and yet make it your own expression? But isn't that our situation as devotees anyway? It's been said it's a benefit, no doubt, to be born into a religion, but it's unfortunate to die in one. You've heard that quote by
Absolutely.
Ananda, I believe. And that speaks to the fact that we want to absorb everything we can from, our guru, our teacher, Swamiji, all the great teachers and inspirations around us. But we don't want to die simply reflecting that. Our job, their job, is to teach us how to make that our own expression, to make that real within ourselves, so that we become the magnets, just like they are, and we can inspire others. Otherwise, what's the point? That's the unfortunate thing about thinking that Jesus is the only one, because where does that leave us? No, Jesus wanted us, to become like him. So that's our job, one-on-one, to to do Kriya Yoga, to find that attunement, and then to find how does God want to express through us. And it will be unique expressions as this world is. And it won't necessarily look like other expressions. But the question is the joy there? Is the attunement there? Is the expansive consciousness there? Is it something we want to take with us to the astral world, like we said before? Is
You know,
it something
I like what you're saying here in the sense that it is very personal. You know, each one of us can really truly feel. There's two things. There's kind of the collective and kind of the structures that are all around us that we see playing out in TV. You know, this person versus that, Republican versus Democrat, this, that. And it's so easy to get polarized in that. And the actual feeling we get when we tune into that which is inner, it's a softening. And so we see people in a different way. We don't rush to judge. And I think judgment is killing a lot of us, having people who watch too much news. I take a lot of news fasts. Because I don't think it's really helping me see other people in the way that Yogananda would say. Yogananda would look at us and see light. And I want to see light when I look at people. I do think that we are seeing, like, it's easy to objectify a people like Iraqis. You never see them, but now we get to see them all the time. And even Zoom, I've Zoomed with, some, it gives you a whole new heart to heart rather than objectification.
Yep. Heart to heart is a really good way of putting it. And I know in Texas, you all have a lot of that. So that's the thing to really.
Yeah, and along that thread, I just want to toss in there that y'all, and many more here, we've been around a long time. We've been here for 27 years, and not fast enough for any of us, because we always say, why aren't we expanding in numbers when we were in a physical center? There was the physical center, and it was wonderful, and we expanded it. We had a beautiful temple. But people were like, why aren't the numbers growing? And here's my take on something Eric said and a lot that you said, Dambara. It's that Master said by ones and twos. And even Krishna said, out of how many devotees, there's the one, this. We here in Dallas have done our job, and we will continue to do it because of the willingness of all these great devotees. We've had Kriya Yoga every year here, even online last year. We have always had at least 1, 2, 3, or 4 new Kriya bonds. We are spreading that light. It is growing, but it's growing the way the masters have told us. This path of self-realization isn't the easiest. So we don't have, 300 people knocking on the door this week. At the same time, it continues. And who is certainly benefiting as well, not in a selfish way, it is we. It is we, the devotees, who do our practices, who do share the light in the grocery store. And even if you're picking up your groceries in the parking lot, like I still am, we can still share the light with the person who comes out, with the people who are driving by. It happened to me yesterday. Somebody drove by. I had the back of my car up waiting for my groceries to come out, and this person drove by, and they paused, and for some reason we were eye to eye, the driver and me, and I had a mask on, and I went, big smile, and I waved, and they went, and then she drove on, and I just felt like this is sharing the light. However we do it, and we are growing, and we're ascending to a power yuga, so we know and trust that that's also going to help our situation. And the last thing I want to say is the word awareness, because you said that, Dambara, at the very beginning when you were talking. And meditation, by the act of meditating, we become more aware of ourselves, how we're acting, what's not really so uplifting in our actions or words. And that awareness helps us then to have a choice to change. So I love the word awareness as well. We're very aware people. I want to say hi to Hope Fry, who just joined us. I do not know you, but welcome online. If you want to open your camera and say hi to us, you're welcome, but no pressure. You certainly don't have to. We are discussing with our guest, who is Dambara Begley up there. He's our guest from the Seattle, Washington, Ananda community up there.
I hope. How much more time do we have, Supriya and Maitri and Mark?
Well, you know, as long as people are happy to be here, like 10 more minutes would be great if you can
Let's
stay.
figure 10, yeah, just to not push people's
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. There's
Sam,
Thank you for what you said.
There's Sam
Sam
and
popped in
Dan.
there. I was just going to say that what Supriya was saying about it's by ones and twos, and we've worked for many years with the Dallas Center to try to make it successful in whatever realm that term really applies. But I think I'm really grateful that you played that little talk of Swami's right off, because I loved how he did after disaster after disaster after disaster. He's like saying, I feel fine about it. I did my best. I did what I could do, and I feel fine. So I think it's a great attitude to cultivate.
Yeah.
I had the blessing to be at that conference. I was at a talk that Swamiji gave. I was brand new, maybe on this past 2 years, maybe 3. I was working the table. I didn't know what I was doing, but I was with someone else who did know what they were doing. And we had so few people come by the table. And it was like, oh, is this the way it always is? I remember thinking that as a new person. And the person I was working with said, well, it doesn't really matter. And I thought, oh, it doesn't really matter that only a few people are coming by and we're not really selling any books. And then I heard Swami on that talk. That was one of the trips when we had a big conference center downtown that was rented, that we had a space at. And it wasn't what he expected, but he said at the end, he told all of us workers, those who were serving, he says, yeah, if it is what it is. And he moved on. No, I learned a lot in that. And I've had many years of experience now with Ananda here in Texas to also have to say, we put out the good energy. We did our best. It is what it is.
Nishkam karma, like Eric said.
Well, it's us that grow through this too. So that's the bottom line is, it's the satsang that helps our spiritual growth. I want to just say one thing here, because I know we're going to wrap it up in a minute. I just booked my airline ticket last night to Seattle, because I'm going to be going to a memorial first for my uncle who passed away a year ago, but they're just doing the memorial now. I am totally vaccinated and clear and free. But anyway, I'm going to arrive on the 22nd, and I have contacted Haley and Zach, and I am going to visit the farm probably that Monday and Tuesday, which I think is like the 25th and 26th time frame. And if I can find a place to stay there overnight, I would love it. So I'm just putting it out.
Got it. We have one for you.
Okay. It really warmed my heart to hear that there might be a place there, because I was like a little panicked about this trip. It's the first going out, and but I really want to see the farm. That's really on my bucket list. So.
No, that's great. We'd love to do that, and I will also hold you to return the favor should I ever make it to Dallas.
Absolutely. No
So
problem.
does that mean, so Maitri, does that mean you're going to be having a in-person kirtan with Dambara and the members of the Ananda Farm on that Friday night, and be live from the farm?
Well, if it works out time-wise, my thing is that I'm not going to be there that Friday night I get in Seattle, but I won't be at the farm until Monday or Tuesday, and I don't know if I'll be staying there till Friday. Is the only thing. I fly back on Saturday, but I have some other things I need to do too. So.
She didn't book a ticket for her technician anyway.
Yeah, the technician will be here.
Is that April?
April, yeah, end of April.
Great. Sam, I'm with you. I was
Hey.
thinking along the same lines there.
I was gonna say, since Maitri's gonna leave her technician lonely there, I'd like pencil in some time and go hang out with him. I'll be fully vaccinated. I'm getting my next dose on Saturday. Spend some time there with Mark. But
That'd be great.
I just wanted to say before Dambara leaves, that this idea of growing delight, I love the way Ma put it. Priya, just I love the way she puts it, growing delight. When you work with single people, just if you're not used to working with a bunch of people at a time, like I work as a teacher in a public school setting, you might not see that this expansion of consciousness. And so, we realize as yogis on this path that we're in the beginning of Dwapara Yuga, and then you turn on sometimes the news, like Eric says, and you're bombarded with all the negative parts still carrying on from Kali Yuga. But when you work with a lot of people, 300-400 people in the building all day, and you see things across time, like I've been doing that for about 20 years, I'm surprised to see the expansion of consciousness even in a public school setting. And this is my example. When I came here in the early 90s, I never ever heard anybody talk about, say the word yoga, or even karma at work. And now we give yoga classes in PE. We give meditation in PE. I teach meditation. I call it mindfulness, but I'm able to teach meditation to my kids every morning, and breathing exercises. And I see and people say karma, adults, teachers. And we're talking North Texas. Dambara I don't know if you're familiar with the politics in the area. It's a red stronghold, conservative. And yet here we are teaching yoga in the public schools and, teaching mindfulness. And I even saw you in the Deep South the other day in the news. I don't know if it was Georgia or South Carolina. Eric might know, where they went ahead and allowed yoga to be taught again in the schools, because apparently there was a state law that said they couldn't teach it because of religious, the separation of religion and state and all that. But now they can teach yoga again as long as they don't say namaste. And we're talking like the Deep South. So those are just some examples that I see where there's an expansion of consciousness happening at the public level that maybe people might not see if you're not in this setting. That was my comment and my question, Dambara, before he leaves, just if you can give some advice, or just having seen a community and a farming community grow, that right now we're in between. We don't know if we're going to get like a church setting or a structure or a community or a farm, and just what some pointers, maybe what you've seen that people that grow into a farm, what it took. Did it take two people to go there first and then they magnetize everybody else? Was there a group of setting from Seattle that decided, hey, we're going out to the farms? How did it happen? So we might take some lessons from that as we get our center back online in the physical realm.
Thank you, Hugh. That's a great question. And I'll give just a little inkling, and then I'm sure that Zach and Haley will continue that thread next week. First, I'll just mention that Ananda LA did a whole series on community where they invited lots of people online to speak about their experiences developing Ananda Village, and Zach and Haley and others. And it was just fabulous. Just a lot of really smart people talking about the history of things and how it might be applied, in this case, to Ananda LA, with starting a community. And I found it fascinating. So contact Ramurti if you can't find it online, but it is posted online, all those talks, really, really good. I think my takeaway, Hugh, would be work with what you have. It really does depend on the leaders. I think everything is directed by the leaders. Ananda Farm is a direct result of Zach and Haley feeling the inspiration and being willing to just do the work. And I think that's one of the things is, you know, you have to have people that are willing to do the work. So the young magnetism really helped a lot. They were at it solo for a couple of years, although they had the support of their spiritual directors, Riemann and Padma, and the investors. So that was behind them. But it was a mutual thing where they had the support because they had the inspiration and they were willing to do what it took. So after a couple of years of that, people coming and going, finally PN Lee came along and attracted the rest of her family and attracted a husband, William, and now they have a little baby, Leo. And so it just starts you follow the inspiration and be real for what you've got. You know, don't try to think intellectually of the concept and fit people into it. Go the other way. Look at the people that you have and think, what's going to work with us? And make sure that everybody's on board with that. And if it feels right inside, like a next step that you can take, it'll feel like a breath of relief, like fresh air, like, yes, we can do this. And if it doesn't, then you have the responsibility to say something because you're part of that.
You said investors, right? There were investors behind the scenes, so the money came from that. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a team of investors. Yeah, and I'd say in a year or two, just like just like Seattle paid off the temple, the vision is that in a year or two, there might be a fundraising effort to try to pay off the investor loans so that Ananda can actually own the farm, but that's down the road.
Friends, it's time for us to say goodbye, but we'll do it especially for you. Namaste, y'all.
Namaste.
You're under arrest.
Yeah. So they always have to leave at this time to go to their Monterey Bay service online. But we kirtan with them every Friday. So we have this incredible relationship with Monterey Bay happening, developing even more. So everybody, we're getting ready to wrap this up. Anybody have any last cameras to be opened? Last words of wisdom?
Thanks for your chat comments. I have read those and enjoyed those, Alex. Saw all yours, and good to see you, Eric.
And Devotee Levity?
Yeah.
I like that too.
I like that, yeah.
Thank you, Devotee Levity. Do you feel to pick up that guitar again and close us out with maybe something super simple?
Yep.
Maybe something we could all sing with mics closed.
I'm going to sing There's Joy in the Heavens. I don't know if you know the words or not, but...
We got it.
Just, yeah, okay. There's joy in the heavens, a smile on the mountains, and melody sings everywhere. The flowers are all laughing to welcome the morning. Your soul is as free as the air. The flowers are all laughing to welcome the morning. Your soul is as free as the air. Leave home in the sunshine, dance through a meadow, or sit by a stream and just be. The lilt of the water will gather your worries and carry them down to the sea. The lilt of the water will gather your worries and carry them down to the sea. Men hunger for freedom, but don't see their dungeon is only the thought that they're bound. Desires are their shackles, the hope that tomorrow the doorway to joy will be found. Desires are their shackles, the hope that tomorrow the doorway to joy will be found. There's joy all around us. Why wait till tomorrow? We've only this moment to live. A heaven within us is ours for the finding, a freedom no riches can give. A heaven within us is ours for the finding, a freedom no riches can give. There's joy in the heavens, a smile on the mountains, and melody sings everywhere. The flowers are all laughing to welcome the morning. Your soul is as free as the air. The flowers are all laughing to welcome the morning. Your soul is as free as the air. The flowers are all laughing to welcome the morning. Your soul is as free as the air.
Oh, our soul is as free as the air. Thank you for doing
Hey, y'all.
that.
Lots
We
of love.
always